Well, what is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to A Therapeutic Edge. I have got something on the table. This actually came to me by way of KC over at Knives Fast, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity. This knife made a big splash a while back. This is the Jake Hoback Knives Summit, and it is, well, it's a big boy. Let's get the elephant out of the room. Jake Hoback recently upset a lot of people by, I guess, announcing that a bunch of his knives were made in China, as opposed to, at least components were made in China, as opposed to all made in the USA. Some of his stuff that was sold as made in the USA was, in fact, not. And that's not cool, really. I don't want to talk about his politics. I don't want to get into it. I want to talk about the knife. And I don't actually love this knife nearly as much as I thought I would. And at $625, that's a little bit of a problem, at least for me. Hang on a second while I adjust things just a hair. What are we doing? All right, we'll call that good. Why don't I love this knife? Well, it isn't his politics, although that might upset some of you, and I get that. It's that it's not very comfortable for me. And I can hear you guys saying, well, it's a huge knife. I like huge knives. And, this is the Corvette XL. This is an $80 knife from Concept. Equally tall handle, and yet, because it's actually just a little bit taller than that one, and yet because of that, the way my hand locks in makes perfect sense. Other big knives, I carry the Formax. Now, the Formax has a nice lean handle, so you get a really good full grip. The Summit is just really tall, but not... Look, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I just am not that comfortable when I'm locked into this thing. But that's okay. I'd like to also say that $625 is an excessive amount of money. That's a lot. You can get a Formax. You can get one of the new Formax for about $400, an S35 VN. It's not M390, but you can get one. You get an old one for about a little under $400. You can get Hinderers, smaller ones, of course, but for about $425, or you can spend less than $600 and you can get yourself an XM24 if you're into that sort of thing. This is an exceptionally expensive knife, and that's kind of where my problem comes in. But that's okay. We don't got to get too far into that. Just know that it's, let's move on. It says PS23 on the side, which I think is a reference to his Psalm 23 packaging stuff. I don't particularly like that either. I believe that every man, woman, and child is allowed their own belief system, but I don't know that I need it to be on my knife. That's okay. That's his deal, not mine. The deployment on this thing is you can Spidey flick it really well. It's got a thumb deployment sort of thing, right, which works excellently well. Look, there's nothing wrong with the knife. It's just, I don't know. I legitimately don't know. I really have a thing for big, giant, silly knives. I love stupid big knives. And yet, this thing, I like big knives. Anyway, something about this just doesn't really work for me. Now, in a similar shape, you've got your full-size Yojumbo, right? These knives are very similar in length and in cutting edge as well. But the Yojumbo is exceptionally comfortable, particularly now that I modified it, where the Hoback just isn't. And you could get 3 of these, basically, for the price of that. Hang on a second. Sorry, and you probably couldn't tell that I left, but I had to adjust some lighting. This is running on what Hoback calls, what do they call that? Pivot thrust bearings. And I'm not going to take Casey's knife apart, but I don't know what that means. I do know that the action is very good, right? I missed it. That was my fault. Smooth and good. The blade is beautiful, right? M390, very slicey, comes down to a very nice edge with a beautiful swedge across the top. The deployment groove here in the blade is well done. I guess I would have liked it better if they'd have chosen. Like, why do we need the flipper thing? I don't know what to call that, right? The deployment option. It's like a thumb stud. I don't know. When the other way works really well itself. And it is left-right compatible, although it is a frame lock, which we are locked up at about 20%. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this thing. I guess really it's the money. You know, I've had Max Ace knives, also made in China, that cost, you know, $400 that were equally big. The Goliath is one that didn't cost this much. And that, I guess that's really is that. That's it. That's what pisses me off about this knife. It is way too expensive. It is. It's not handmade. It's machine shop made. It's not $600 worth of knife. And in this day and age, you just can't do that. You can't. And expect people to be okay with it. Unless, I suppose, you let people believe that this was made by people that charge more for their labor. Again, sorry, I'm going to put that to this. It's hard to put that to the side because, well, I personally don't, I don't have an issue with, I love my Chinese knives. I really do. I have no problem because I know where they come from. I know how much they cost. Anyway. The blade itself, let's get the specs out of it. I'm rambling because I'm not really sure what to do here. I want to love this knife because I love big stuff, but it just really isn't a knife for me. That's okay. Casey loves it. I know Scott loves his. Scott Bigwar Williams loaned one of these to me as well. I actually have two in the house right now, which happens sometimes. The specs are amazing. I mean, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, a little over 4 1/4 of M390. You can't beat that with a stick. The grip area is enormous. You get 1, 2, 3, 3 3/4 to this swell, and then all the way 1, 2, 3, 4, almost 5 inches of handle. Now, because of this shape, you don't. You get 3.5. Right. Yeah, about 3.5 to this rise right here. Maybe that's part of the problem. Whereas, the Formax is this sort of, it's curved, but it's still kind of a neutral handle shape. This is thick and then gets thicker towards the back, and it kind of pushes my fingers away from where I want to grip it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to lose this thing if I'm swinging it at something, but it just isn't that comfortable. Man, I really keep coming back to that, don't I? I guess I wanted it to be. I wanted one of these a lot. And now I'm sort of glad I didn't get one. All right. From tip to tail, we are looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, almost 10 inches, right? 9 3/4. Closed length on this behemoth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5. It's going to chew up some pocket. Although because it is tab and or groove deployed, there is no flipper tab, which is really nice. But you're looking at 2 inches, right? It's going to eat up some pocket. And of course, as I said, because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5 inches long, this is what you'll be carrying in your pocket. But I don't mind. I carry this. They are very similar when it comes to how much pocket they chew up. The Summit does have some very nice features, and let's focus on that for a minute. I love the full milled tie pocket clip is really beautiful. I do love the large pivot on the show side. I do love the way that it is down into this. Everything's nice and smooth, right? It's got a nice steel lock bar insert. This one happens to be just dead centered, which should be for the amount of money this thing costs. It's got a 3/4 full, almost a full length backspacer, about 3/4. On the inside of the knife, which, do I have a flashlight handy? I do. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. It is nicely milled. right? And of course, when it's this big, there's plenty of room for milling, so there is some weight reduction, but let's not kid ourselves. This is not a lightweight knife, but it's not supposed to be. The handle is big enough to inspire confidence. You know, if I was going to be chopping at something, this thing would do a really good job. And the tip is pretty pokey. If you needed to give somebody a nudge, that would do pretty well. You've already seen it up against the 4-Max, but let's do that again. Here it is against the 4-Max, and the 4-Max is virtually the same length, a little bit longer, but I mean, this is the 4-Max. Come on. More standard size knives. Here's against our old friend, the Presidio 2 from Benchmade, which looks like a tiny little pocket knife next to the Summit, and it is not. By way of example, here is the Hoback. Yeah, the Summit is a big knife. And under normal circumstances, that would absolutely make me drool over it. But there's just something about this thing I cannot quite get behind. Now, I don't want you to think that I don't like other Hoback knives. I do. I have an A10, one of his original customs, that I absolutely love. And that is a funky knife. Let me see if I can find that. Getting the old knife case. Yeah. I mean, I like this a ton. And I like other Hoback knives a lot too. And I don't care where they're made. I really don't. I do care how much they cost though. I mean, this thing new as a full custom was about $550. Of course, it's 10 years old now. But I mean, this thing is weird and yet very comfortable. Super slicey, right? Well done. The Summit, I think what bugs me about it is it was so close. And here's what I mean. If he'd have taken this line, I mean, he had this really big pivot. Maybe that's part of the problem. But if he'd have taken this line 1/8 of an inch higher, all the way up to about here, right? Just 1/8 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch more off this knife, you would have locked into this thing like a pistol grip, and it would have been absolutely fantastic. And I have really fairly big hands. I don't have long fingers, but my hands are wide, and maybe that's the problem, right? I mean, I have big hands this way, but I don't have particularly long fingers. But it's never been a problem, even on the biggest of knives. I mean, big knives, no problem, plenty of grip, all is good in the world. Big, thick-handled knives, it hasn't even been an issue, right? I mean, this thing is super thick through the backspacer, right? And yet, you just lock in. This thing, I think, in an effort to have a smooth line, he just didn't. He could have done better, in my opinion, for me. And I wouldn't, if I had spent $625 on this knife, I'd have been kind of pissed off. Just because it doesn't fit my hand very well. Anyway, that's the size comparison stuff. Let's weigh it out because that's something we do here. Now, I can already hear the people that like it saying, you don't know what you're talking about. That thing is beautiful and it fits your hand. Look, I've said this many times. The best thing about knives, absolutely the best thing about knives, is that there's literally something for everyone and no one has to be wrong. This is just my opinion, my feelings. You don't have to agree. And if you don't, more power to you. I hope you have one of these and love it. Yeah, we're coming in at 8.4 ounces. It is a tank of a knife. I mean, by way of example, this is what, 10 ounces? Yeah, 10.3. So we're within a couple of ounces of each other, these two knives, and yet the 4-Max is bigger in, most ways, right? It just is. I don't mind heavy. This thing is kind of a tank. Now, it does come with the necessary drivers to do maintenance, which is very nice. And as I said, it comes with Jake Hoback's little commitment to quality thing. And again, with reference to Psalm 23, which he seems to like quite a bit. I don't know. That's your jam, not mine. The one thing it does have that I don't like, and I've talked about this in another video, I mean, one of the things that I don't like is this blue. I have a Kubi that is also like this. And to me, when they do this particular blue, it just makes me feel like, I don't know, I don't like it. I didn't like it on the Kubi, the Monster Dog, and I don't like it on this either. If you're going to anno out stuff at this point, go dark, go purple, or, you know, do something interesting, or just leave it gray and let us do the work. We can get it annoed if we want to. This blue is, well, it's just not my favorite thing in the world. But then again, it turns out neither is the knife. Now, for those of you that watch my channel a lot, you're going to know this is a really unusual video. I don't often complain about a knife this much. But I guess I was really looking forward to this, and so the disappointment is real. If you've stuck around this long, 15 minutes, I really appreciate you. Thank you. If you haven't, I understand. Of course, you didn't hear that. If you like this knife and you're willing to spend the money, get one. There's nothing wrong with the knife. In fact, it is right in many ways. But if you have hands that are shaped like mine, wide but not long, you're not going to find this that comfortable. And if you have a wallet that's shaped like mine, which is thin and not particularly full of cash, you're going to find that kind of hard to take too. If you're looking for a really big, beefy knife that is not going to fail you, get yourself one of those. Or if you're looking for something a little smaller but equally badass, get yourself one of these. You will not be disappointed. And on that note, we're going to end it. Thank you so much for your time today. This has been the Hoback Summit. I am as surprised by this review as you are. Anyway, take care, guys. Thanks for watching.